On today's show, Jalen Brunson with a clutch win against the Houston Rockets. Trae Young with a step-back game winner. 10 games on in the association. What do we see in the NBA tonight? We'll tell you on today's Locked On NBA Game Night.
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
And welcome. You are Locked On to NBA Game Night. My name is Nick Angstadt, host of the Locked On Mavericks podcast. Just grateful that they let me talk about a different team for once this week, Camille.
Well, you're going to have some flashbacks tonight with Jalen Brunson doing what he did.
Don't do that to me right now.
Sorry. Thanks
for being an everyday and making Locked On NBA your first listen today. Today's episode is sponsored by FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here. There's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if that first bet wins. Download the app, head to FanDuel.com to get started. And joining me, as always, from the great Locked On Bucks. What'd you see in the NBA tonight, Camille Davis?
A lot of teams playing without a lot of key players, but some interesting outcomes regardless. Not so much in Milwaukee, but everywhere else there were some interesting things happening.
Yeah, I felt like every game it was like, oh, 2 starters out here, 3 starters out here. It's just one of those nights. It was February. Here we go. Right before the trade deadline, right before the All-Star break. It's all that. 10 games on in the association. We'll get to every single one of them. That's what we do every game, every night here on Game Night. Let's start here, Camille. The New York Knicks get a win against the Houston Rockets. The Rockets, one of those teams without starters. Alfred Şengün, Fred VanVleet, and Jabari Smith Jr. were all out in this one. OG Anunoby out for the Knicks, but Knicks still get a win. Let's hear from our guy Gavin Shaw of Locked On Knicks.
The New York Knicks escape the Houston Rockets, missing Alperen Şengün, missing Fred VanVleet. It didn't matter. They are athletic. They are fast. They are tenacious, but they did not have Jalen Brunson. 42 points and 10 assists for the Knicks all-star starter, the captain. He was incredible down the stretch of this ball game. 11 points in the final 4 minutes, absolutely cooking whoever the Rockets put on him over and over again, calling Jalen Green into the action, blowing by him, getting to the rim. Went up against Amen Thompson, who's 6'7", already one of the best defenders in the NBA, toasted him on a reverse pivot for a lefty layup, and then the dagger, the right wing 3 over Tari Eason to guide the New York Knicks to victory. Karl Anthony Towns, valiant effort too, 10 points or 11 points in the fourth quarter, battling through a finger injury. Tough win for the New York Knicks.
A really good win for the New York Knicks. And Jalen Brunson, to me, he's just like thick Allen Iverson sometimes. The way that he scores and the way that he was getting off drives. I mean, there was so many lead changes at the end of this game. It just felt like they were going back and forth. Jalen Brunson a drive, then that pull-up 3 to give him a 4-point lead with a minute left basically sealed it. What did you see from Jalen Brunson?
That they needed him. They needed him in a really, really bad way in this game because early on, it was an ugly game, a lot of defense-heavy stretches in this game, and the Rockets were looking really good, especially in the first half, but they needed a lot from Brunson, and he came through with 17 points in the fourth quarter. They needed every single one of those points, especially with Amen Thompson sitting here looking like, I'm ready to go to battle and try to get this win for my team too. It was really fun watching the two of them go back and forth in this one.
Just everywhere. He had Amen Thompson had a huge dunk with a minute 50 left to retake the lead for the Rockets. Then he finishes 25 points, 11 boards, 11 assists. He's just all over the place all the time. Like his speed, his ability to jump, get off the floor, like that dunk caught everyone off guard. Like, wait, he already dunked it. Like we were just getting ready to load up to go for the block there, and he was already in the rim. But man, Jalen Brunson, he just I was there his rookie year. I was there his whole time in Dallas, saw him in person, all that. And the player he is now, it makes no sense from the player he started with the Dallas Mavericks. He just didn't look like the exact same player. And he learned how to play without rhythm with the Mavericks because he was playing with Luka. And I think that has helped him so much to just whenever he needs to go get a bucket, he can go get a bucket. He doesn't need to work into a rhythm. He doesn't need to have a couple touches here and there. He could just, all right, I'm going to come off the bench with 6 minutes left in this game, and I'm going to get after it, and we're going to get that win. And one of the things Locked On Knicks has been pointing out a lot about Brunson this year has been his passing, and 10 assists for him in this one.
Yeah, he has been doing a really good job of getting his teammates involved. I think it's really helpful too when you have a big like Karl-Anthony Towns next to you. The two of them have formed quite the dynamic duo so far. And Karl-Anthony Towns is still kind of getting the touch back on his 3-point shot ever since he got that thumb injury. But Brunson has been doing a good job of getting his teammates involved while also knowing when to be aggressive and take over. And like they needed him to do tonight.
The Rockets, a kind of a struggle in the fourth quarter. They scored 29 points, but Amen Thompson, Jalen Green go 3 of 12. Combined from the field in that one. They get most of their fourth quarter points from Aaron Holiday. 9 points for him. A little run for him, which is it's good to see another guard off the bench for the Rockets. Their depth is just, it's wild to see how many guys they have on this team.
It is, and you can count on that defense. So that fourth quarter, as you pointed out, to the struggles they had offensively, they also had struggles defensively, which you don't tend to see from this Rockets team. Giving up 46 points in the fourth quarter, the quarter that you're supposed to lock in, that's when the Rockets gave up the most points of the entire game. So tough stretch for the Rockets right now, too. I believe this is their first 3-game losing streak of the season. So I know they're going to look to try to rebound their next game on Wednesday.
Rockets were just down so many players. They had to play small so much in this game. Steven Adams played 26 minutes, but that means the rest of the time they're basically playing small. And with Amen Thompson and like Jayshawn Tate and Atari Easton, sometimes it doesn't feel like you're playing small because those guys are just everywhere and rebounding and doing everything. But yeah, Kevin in that video said, no Alfred Şengün, no Fred VanVleet, no problem. Like, it's kind of a problem for the Rockets.
Right, big problem for them.
Yeah,
not for you in the nut with the Knicks, but right. One for the Rockets.
No problem. Like, yeah, that's right. It should be easier to beat them, right? Oh, man. It was not easy to beat the Atlanta Hawks. The Pistons had a chance there. They locked on NBA game night Monday Memorial Pistons spot. They're 0-2 in the last 2 weeks now, the Pistons. But no Jalen Johnson, no Clint Capella, Bogdanovich out for the Hawks, and then Jaden Ivey out for the Pistons. Pistons on the second night of a back-to-back, and they got some wild plays to end this one. Let's hear first from Brad Rowland of Locked On Hawks.
Hello, friends. My name is Brad Rowland. I'm the host of the Locked On Hawks podcast, and the Hawks finally win a basketball game on this Monday evening, breaking their 8-game losing streak in memorable fashion. Trae Young wins it at the buzzer, essentially, with a very difficult jumper in a tie game to win it over the Detroit Pistons. Back and forth game, leading the entire way for the Hawks. And on this night, it was actually their offense that led the way. Trae had 17 in the fourth quarter to lead all scorers with 34 points. But 7 guys in double figures for Atlanta. Dice Daniels had a big game for the Hawks, 20 points for DeAndre Hunter. And ultimately, they didn't get a lot of stops. It was not always the most comfortable win in the world for Atlanta, but after 2+ weeks without a victory, it was badly needed for the Hawks. Of course, we have trade rumor stuff swirling around the entire league, around the Hawks as well, with only a few days until the deadline. But in the meantime, a big win to end the road trip for the Hawks, and we'll get into it and much more on Locked On Hawks.
Yeah, some wild plays down the stretch. You had it was tied with like 2 minutes left. Then with a minute left, Trae has an insane jump pass. He jumps in the air and slings it over the one arm right to DeAndre Hunter. And DeAndre Hunter puts his head down, starts dribbling. The shot clock goes off. He didn't know how much time was left. So like, oh man, the Hawks are trying to give this game away. Then Dyson Daniels steals it away from Cade Cunningham, just a one-on-one ISO, and the Great Barrier Thief takes it away. Then 26 seconds left, Cade just drives on Dyson Daniels, gives it right back to him, ties the game right there, and you get Trae Young, the ISO on Malik Beasley, takes it out. The step back long two just puts it right there, and then Malik Beasley ends up on the ground. He's laying down, and Trae Young steps over him, like Allen Iverson, steps over him, and just kind of like brushes off his shoulder. Just an incredible shot from Trae.
Trae Young is such a villain, and I love it. Like you need guys like this in the league. And with Jalen Johnson being out for the rest of the season, they are going to need Trae Young to be an aggressive scorer as well. Love that he's still setting his teammates up because he has that gift of being able to pass the ball, to find guys, to see things that other guys can't see and get the ball into tight windows. But they're going to need him to be aggressive. He did that tonight in this win that they got because, I mean, even if you look at the box score, you're like, oh, he only had 16 attempts. He had 14 attempts at the free throw line. He did a great job of drawing those fouls, getting to the line, and of course, scoring 17 of his 34 in the fourth quarter, showing up big when they really needed him to. Is
Trae Young the only 5'10" man in America with short man syndrome?
Absolutely not.
There's others. 5'10" is like that's a decent height for like a human man, but not for an NBA player. He's like the smallest guy out there.
Right. Maybe I say that because I'm 5'11" myself. So like I have met some men around my height.
Cade Cunningham, 12 points in the fourth quarter wasn't enough. 30 and 14 assists for him. Let's hear from Kuka Hill of Locked On Pistons.
Pistons lose a very winnable game, tough, heartbreaking game to the Atlanta Hawks. Host of Locked On Pistons podcast, Kuka Hill here. Last possession of the game for the Atlanta Hawks. Trae Young hits a fadeaway, spinning, long two over Malik Beasley. Shouldn't have switched there. Should have kept Asar Thompson on him. It was a tough shot. Fine defense from Malik. But I wonder if he even gets that shot off if Asar is guarding him. Asar was giving him problems all night. They should have made that switch. Last offensive possession for the Pistons. They go to a lob for Tobias. I don't hate the play call, but the person you draw up for, not too big of a fan for drawing it up to Tobias. You draw that up for Iran, for Asar, to a Duran. I get it. To Tobias, don't really love it. Cade had a really bad first half. Turned it up a little bit in the second half. Played a really good fourth quarter. Pistons had every chance to win this game. Some clutch plays at the end by both Cade and Asar, but just weren't able to pull it out.
Pistons can't pull it out. The Hawks do, and they finally get a win and break their losing streak. The Suns lose to the Blazers, who are kind of on a little bit of a streak of their own. What happened in overtime? What did DeAndre Ayton do to his old team? Talk about that and more coming up. Today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night is brought to you by BetterHelp. BetterHelp. What are some of the relationship green flags out there? We always talk about red flags. You go on a first date and you're like, all right, I'm just going to ask some questions, and I'm just analyzing every single thing that you say, trying to find the red flags. What's going to get me to say, all right, this isn't it. I'm out. Let's try something else. But what about green flags? What are the things that you see in a person or see in a friendship or something where you go, I vibe with that person. I really like that person. Well, let's hang out a little bit more. Green flags can help. You can find some of those green flags and identify what they are, embody them, and get green flag energy yourself with therapy. And BetterHelp can help you do that. Doesn't matter what type of relationship you're looking at, a marriage, a friendship, a relationship with a superstar player of a team that you covered that may be gone, just gone out of your life, and you just don't know when that's going to come back. And maybe you need to talk about it, and you have like a lot of feelings about it, and you talk about it on a show, and just somehow it isn't enough, and you got to talk more about it. That might be something I'm doing. Discover your relationship green flags with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. Those BetterHelp reads, it's a little therapy, just for me.
You better help yourself, you know?
I might need it. Thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On NBA Game Night, for being in every day or listening every day. We have a daily Locked On show that covers your team. Check the link in the description to find a show that covers your team every day. The Phoenix Suns lose to the Portland Trail Blazers. Oof. In this one. They go to overtime. It came down to KD, a minute 30 left. Took a corner three, hit the top of the backboard. Then you get Ayton on a pick and roll dunk. Anthony Simons isolates on KD on the other end. A step back two, really felt like exactly like the Trae Young shot in the other game. Portland goes up. KD misses another sidestep three on a 2-for-1 shot. And then Jeremy Grant tries to attack KD. KD blocks his three-point attempt, but blocks it so far that he is out of the play. And all of a sudden, Jeremy Grant gets a dunk on the other end, puts them up. And then the Suns tie the game with a second left. They go into overtime, and it was the DeAndre Ayton show in this one. Yeah. 25 points, 20 rebounds, and the Suns didn't play Nick Richards, Camille.
No, they went small with KD out there as their five. Then they had a lot of shooting around them. I was actually surprised that their small ball lineup didn't include Ryan Dunn a bit more. Only 12 minutes for Ryan Dunn in this game, but it seemed like Bud wanted to go with having the shooters around there. So you had your Royce O'Neal out there, you had your Grayson Allen, you had Bradley Beal, you had those guys down there banging for rebounds, and that explains a lot as to why DeAndre Ayton was able to come out there with 20 of them on his own.
Beal did get a huge rebound in overtime where there was like three guys around him, and he hauls in that rebound. I was like, oh, that's a great rebound. Who was that? Brad Beal. What the heck? But yeah, Nick Richards, only 17 minutes. He started. Ryan Dunn, 12 minutes. He started. I find myself, I was like, did Nick Richards get injured? Like, wasn't the whole point of bringing him in to stop this? But for the Blazers, DeAndre Ayton, he was just everywhere. They didn't have an answer for him. The Suns playing this small ball. KD at the 5 just didn't work. They were spread out way too much. Ayton with that 25 and 20, only the 5th player this season with a 25 points, 20 rebound game. Jokic, Kat, Sabonis, and the Dallas Maverick himself, Anthony Davis, with the only 25 and 20 games this season. But the Blazers, they're 8-1 their last 9, Camille.
Shout out to the Blazers. With them going on this little win streak here, they have already tied their win total from last season, and they're a week ahead of the All-Star break. Like, the Blazers rebuild looks like it's doing pretty well in the moment.
That should make me feel better, but for some reason that made me feel bad for Mike Richmond of Locked On Blazers for last season, what he had to go through. Oh, yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot.
A lot of losing. 61 losses in season. Woo.
The Kings got a win in this one after losing De'Aaron Fox. They lost De'Aaron Fox, but they win this game against the Timberwolves. And we didn't get to see Zach LaVine yet. He's not out there yet. But I'm curious. What do we expect from this Sacramento Kings team with Zach LaVine now that they don't have De'Aaron Fox? You got DeRozan, Sabonis, Malik Monk. You put LaVine in there. What are you expecting from this team?
I'm expecting a lot of offense. Now, one could say you should have expected that already when Fox was still in the lineup, and that's fair. That is fair. But now you're replacing a point guard here with another wing-sized player who's not necessarily known for playing that defense. You got LaVine and DeRozan reuniting now in Sacramento. And I think the path forward for the Kings is going to be leaning on their offense and really trying to outscore teams, because I know you're somebody who's pointed to the lack of defense from Sacramento. Not pointing to a few people like, hey, what about Keon Ellis? What about Keegan Murray? But like, that's about it. So like, they're going to have to really outscore teams going forward here.
The wild thing about the Kings right now, we talked about this on the West Squad show. You can find it in whatever feed of a Western Conference team that you listen to. That Matt George was saying that Malik Monk is now their like primary initiator of offense and their playmaker. And he said his playmaking has been a lot better, but man, if Malik Monk's the only one, and Sabonis does some playmaking with his dribble handoffs and stuff like that. But you're leaning on offense. You don't have offensive initiators really, or like offensive like creators. So that just feels like an oxymoron to me.
They're going to have to they're going to have a lot of mid-range DeRozan, someone who can go and get his own shot that way. They're going to have a lot of Zach LaVine attempts, and they probably will utilize Sabonis even more as that hub because he has the nice passing touch. So they're probably going to lean on him as an untraditional source to continue to jumpstart that offense. Yeah,
a lot more on Sabonis, and Sabonis just go up and get the rebounds, man.
Yeah, he's going to have to.
Going to put up some shots, and you're going to get the rebound. Yeah. For the Timberwolves, let's hear from our guy Ben Beacon of Locked On Wolves on the loss.
So the Timberwolves lost the Sacramento Kings on Monday night by 2. I'm Ben Beacon, host of the Locked On Wolves podcast. The Wolves, of course, still without Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo. Anthony Edwards was back, though, after missing Saturday's game due to illness. He didn't quite look like himself, though, scoring just 21 points on 21 shots and 4 assists plus 3 turnovers. The big story, though, was Sacramento's offensive explosion, especially in the first quarter. They scored 38 points in the first frame. DeMar DeRozan on the night had 33 points on 14 of 25 shooting, and I don't remember him missing 11 shots. It felt like he made every single mid-range jumper he threw at the rim. Malik Monk also had 26, although it took him 23 shots to do it. DeRozan also had 7 assists and no turnovers. He could do no wrong in this game. The Wolves couldn't get the ball out of his hands, and Minnesota didn't really keep pace scoring-wise until down the stretch. They made things a little bit interesting. But overall, this was all about the Kings just making shots over the Wolves defense. We'll break it all down at Locked On Wolves. Subscribe for all things.
The Milwaukee Bucks didn't play anybody in their game against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Lillard, Giannis, Chris Middleton, Brook Lopez, Bobby Portis, all out in this one. Yep. The Bucks, though, Camille, have lost 5 out of their last 6. What's going on with the Bucks?
Defense is not showing up for the Milwaukee Bucks. They had surprisingly been hovering around top 10 defense throughout the season. And during this losing streak, it has completely deserted them. They have given up over 125 points in each of those losses. So like they have to get better, tighten up on that defensive front if they want to try to get some more wins going forward.
Are you concerned about it? How concerned are you? Scale of 0 to 5.
Whew, I'd probably say about a 3, because the way that the Bucks are constructed, they're a fragile group. So when you take anyone out of that lineup, their margin for error is already thin. You take someone out, it's even thinner. So like assuming health and assuming you have all your guys going forward, like I feel good about the Bucks, but whenever you take even one guy out, it's a problem. Like they missed Bobby Portis a lot over their road trip, and you wouldn't expect that they missed his defensive presence, given that Bobby Portis isn't known as a defensive guy, but they missed Bobby Portis only having 2 bigs in the rotation without him, which again shows how fragile everything is with the Bucks.
Coming up, it's Counted Up, where we count all the most interesting, fun things in the NBA. Do the Memphis Grizzlies need to make a trade? They might. We'll tell you. Coming up. Today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night is brought to you by FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here. One game, two teams, endless possibilities. No better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel. You can do that for the NFL, for the Super Bowl. But you can also do it for the NBA. They have a Mavs-Lakers tab now on FanDuel. I found this today, and it's wild. There's a February 25th game. Mavs at Lakers will be the first time that these two teams see each other, and they've got all kinds of odds for it. The Lakers open that as a 4-point favorite. I don't know about that, FanDuel. I don't know about the Lakers being better than the Mavs right now. I think this season the Mavs may be better. So if you're feeling strongly about that, you can put down $5 and you get $200 in bonus bets if that first bet wins. There's all kinds of other stuff too. We mentioned the NFL. They have all kinds of props and stuff for the Super Bowl. Check it out. Download the app. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet $5 and you win $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59.
Big chicken, baby.
Zion Williams and porn star.
Take that for that.
Count it up. Count it up. Count it up. Count it up. Count it up.
It's counted up. We counted the most interesting, fun things in the NBA. 6 more games left that we got to get to, Camille. The Grizzlies get a win against the San Antonio Spurs. Let's hear from our guy, Joe Molinax. Always got interesting things to say about the Grizzlies.
Winning feels good. In an uncertain time in the NBA with the trade deadline approaching, it is nice to see the Memphis Grizzlies keeping their eye on the prize, continuing their winning ways, continuing to hold on to the second seed in the Western Conference, at least for now, after their win over the San Antonio Spurs. I'm Joe Molinax of Locked On Grizzlies. Ja Morant appeared to rediscover his basketball joy, looked very much the part of NBA superstar against the Spurs. Jaren Jackson Jr., once again, an impressive performance, back-to-back 30-point games dating back to just last night's game. A really solid showing considering Desmond Bane was out. Zach Edey posted a double-double. We saw a really impressive scoring display from Gigi Jackson off the bench. It was a strong night for the Grizzlies in their depth, just in time for some of it to perhaps be traded away by the deadline. Does Memphis need to make a move? That'll be something we debate here, there, and everywhere in the days to come.
Answer the question, Camille.
Count it up.
Do the Grizzlies need to make a move?
Need to? I would say no. I don't think they need to. If they can and improve, then like sure. But I think this Grizzly team has enough to really make some noise come playoff time, especially if GG is going to be coming off the bench hooping like he was hooping tonight.
Yeah, it's like, what would they add? What would they get? It feels like they have everything. They just haven't had everything. Or they have it, they just haven't had it, right? Like that's a bar. That's the difference.
Yep.
Yeah,
it explains it perfectly. It explains it perfectly. And they found ways to win despite not having everything all at once throughout it. Like with the Rockets losing, they jumped the Rockets to be 2 in the West right now. So like if you're looking at a team that's 34-16 saying they need to make a move, I don't know if I would agree with that.
It's just, will those players be good at the things that they're good at in the playoffs and when it matters, right? Like, can they go get buckets? Can they defend? Can they do all that? It's and it's a lot on Taylor Jenkins to figure out the right combinations with all those guys and try to figure out. They've had these guys step up, the Scottie Pippen Juniors, the Gigi Jacksons, the guys that have stepped up in the wake of these injuries, but what levers does he pull? And I think that's something I'm definitely watching with this team.
Yeah,
a team that I'm not really watching that much is the Washington Wizards, but they do get a win tonight against the Charlotte Hornets, quote unquote the Charlotte Hornets, because that was not a basketball team. Let's hear from Brandon Scott of Locked On Wizards.
The Washington Wizards beat the Charlotte Hornets 124-114 for the second straight victory and their 8th win of the season. But how did the Wizards win this game tonight? Easy. With Jordan Poole being the decoy tonight and being shut down offensively, he played facilitator with 6 assists. Bilal Coulibaly, 26 points, but it was 4 for 8 from 3 to really shine, and he led the way for the Washington Wizards tonight. Kyle Kuzma was an aggressive 22 points. And Jonas Valanciunas, not only did he score 14 points, but 17 rebounds, which holding down the paint was another big reason why the Washington Wizards won this game. But also production off the second unit. Corey Kispert with 25 points, but shooting 5 for 9 for 3. And Malcolm Brogdon, coming back for injury, produced 16 points and 7 assists to lead the second unit. So the Washington Wizards look to get their third straight victory Wednesday night versus the Brooklyn Nets. Hail to the Wizards and peace.
Brandon, the real answer is LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller didn't play.
I mean, that's definitely a big part of it.
That starting lineup for the Hornets, the rotation for the Hornets is rough. But now my question is,
count it up.
If you lose to the Wizards, you should blank. Your team should blank.
watch the film and make sure you don't do anything that you did in that game ever again. But the crazy part is 5 of the wins that the Wizards have gotten have been against the Hornets and the Hawks. So like those 2 teams in particular need to take a look in the mirror because what's happening that you keep losing to the Wizards?
I think if you lose to the Wizards, I think you should have to take a bus to your next game. I don't care where it is.
No matter how far.
I don't care if you're going from DC to Portland. You got to take a bus. Team's got to take the team bus. I was texting with Doug Branson and Walker Mel of Locked On Hornets, and I said, I just texted him. I said, people paid to be at this game. This is what I said. And Walker responded, we just became responsible for 22% of Washington's wins over the last 2 years.
Oh my. So it goes even beyond this season when you think about it. That's crazy. That's 22%. They haven't had many. 22, that's almost a quarter. What? Get it together, Charlotte.
That was the most crazy stat I heard all night.
Get it together, Charlotte.
Absolutely wild. So the Wizards will definitely take that win because they don't get many of them. The Pacers are not feeling great about their win against the Utah Jazz. Tony East definitely not feeling good about that win.
That was a disgusting win for the Indiana Pacers. Tony East here of Locked On Pacers, where the Pacers win their 12th of their last 14. In Utah, they beat the Jazz. That's not the most noble result. It was only 1 point win at 112-111, a very unnoble result. In fact, probably the ugliest Pacers win this season. Down 10 with 5 minutes and 31 seconds to go. Very rarely leading in this game. They shot so poorly. It's their first win shooting under 25% from deep all season. Their defense wasn't very good all night. They got smoked on the glass, yet somehow their rim pressure, their maturity came alive late. Pascal Siakam was terrific in crunch time as he was in their win 2 days ago. That required the same thing. Thomas Bryant had a dreadful night until the very end. He stepped up late. The calming presence of Aaron Nesmith was huge. This is what good teams do. They win games where they don't have it, and the Pacers have done that now twice in a row, firmly fourth in the East, 28-20. We'll have much more on Locked On Pacers.
Quick one. Do you believe in the noble wins versus the non-noble wins, or is it just all dubs, no matter what?
There's a difference, but they all count the same in the end. It's like, what do you learn from them and take from them? But at the end of the day, you got to win us in the standing, so you continue to roll with it. You'd rather win ugly than to lose valiantly.
I subscribe to the Ted Lasso. I believe that you can win a game and still lose. I subscribe to that.
That's fair.
I do. I'm about the moral victories and the unnoble losses, or the noble losses.
Unnoble losses makes it sound so much fancier than what it actually is.
Tony using the noble and all that. The Pelicans not having a noble season. It's just it's a disaster down there for Jake Madison and the Pelicans. But they do have one bright spot.
Is Trey Murphy III the future for the Pelicans? Because it feels like Trey Murphy III might be the future for the Pelicans. I'm Jake Madison, host of the Daily Locked On Pelicans podcast. Back-to-back 40-point games for Trey Murphy III in what is a completely lost season for New Orleans that has been filled with disappointment and injuries. Trey Murphy's emergence has been an absolute bright spot. We already knew that he was a shooter. We knew that he was a dunker, but you're seeing a much more complete game from him this season. While the Pelicans did lose to the Denver Nuggets, 125-113, Trey Murphy tying a career high with 41 points. That's a pretty awesome number to be able to see, and we feel really good about this and his future with the team. All of a sudden now, whether you feel good about Zion Williamson or not, the Pelicans might have another cornerstone with how he's grown. His handle's improving. The strength and finishing at the rim is improving. It's been a really bright spot in an otherwise dark season for New Orleans.
Yeah, the Nuggets get the win in that one. 36 points for Michael Porter Jr., 7 threes. Jokic gets 27 points, 14 boards, 10 assists. Like a really bad game for Jokic with 27, 14, and 10. I mean, that's just not up to his normal levels. But my question is on the Pelican side. What do you think about building around Trey Murphy?
I think that it has some potential to be something worth investing in. Like over his last 3, he had 32 points, then 40 points, now 41, meaning over his last 3 games, he is averaging 37.7 points a game. He's been shooting over 70% from the field, over 60% from 3, Those numbers, of course, are not sustainable, but the way that he's getting to his points and his buckets, you can see the growth in his game, and he's showing something like he could really be somebody.
Yeah, I think that some of these players, you just need an opportunity, and he's getting an opportunity right now for the Pelicans with all these guys out. I've always thought that just give him a chance. I feel like he might even be better than Brandon Ingram. He's kind of showing it right now.
I mean, look at Dyson Daniels. Like, he was somebody who was also buried on the Pelicans depth chart, and now he got a chance in Atlanta, and he's really showing out too. So Trey Murphy might be that guy.
Our last game of the night, the Warriors get a win against the Orlando Magic. Let's hear from Chuck Walter of Locked On Warriors.
We're from Chase Center in downtown San Francisco. It's Golden State 104. It's the Orlando Magic 99. First half was ugly, folks. It was 43-43 at the break. That's just another Monday for the Orlando Magic. This is a team that doesn't shoot it well. Golden State's kind of one of those squads where it's feast or famine, and sometimes it happens in the same game. First half, they couldn't do anything. 2 of 14 from 3. Second half, they picked it up in spurts. The big man, Quentin Post, with a big 3 to cap off an 8-0 run that put the Warriors out for good in the second half. But one thing that was a constant all game was the play of their wings, specifically Andrew Wiggins and Moses Moody. Andrew Wiggins, 25 points to lead the way for Golden State. Moses Moody chips in 17, had a massive 3 with under 2 minutes left in the game to really seal it. And then Steph Curry, after a really tough shooting start for Golden State, picks it up in the second half, finishes the game with 24 points, second for Golden State as they shoot at 50% from the floor, and they get a much-needed win as the entire Dub Nation is just sitting, waiting, wishing, wondering what is going to happen before the trade deadline. They are considered the most active team on the market right now. They have nothing to show for it. Will we get a Durant reunion? Or will we be relying on Moses Moody to score 17 points tonight? I'll tell you what, he looked good in this one. Charlie Walter from Chase Center, Locked On Warriors YouTube page. You can find the reaction. See you there.
Will the Dubs make a move? We'll find out. Go check out Locked On Warriors. Check out all the great shows that cover every single team every day here at Locked On. If you want to hear about just the disaster going on in Dallas, I can host Locked On Mavericks, Locked On Bucks by Camille Davis. You can go check out that show. Guys, thanks so much for hanging out with us on Locked On NBA Game Night.